It's 7:33. I'm gonna call to order the meeting of the RTM PZ&H committee. Since this is our first meeting of the new term, I did just want to go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves. Just give a little background on your time on the RTM, volunteer, and sort of why you're interested in being part of this committee. If everyone doesn't mind doing that. I will start. I'm Amy Zavatakis. I've been on the RTM. This is now my 4th year. I think that's right. And I have been on the RTM PZ&H committee the whole time, chair for the last 2. And I, in my other life, work as a real estate and zoning attorney in town. And so I was interested in getting part of this so I could see everything from the other side.
Hello, I'm Erica Procaccini. I believe this is going to be my 3rd year in RTM. I have always been on PZ&H. I like planning and zoning. My husband's a contractor and we built houses from the ground up. So I do have some experience with the whole building process. And just my husband has a septic business, been in town for like 50 years. The Procaccini family, I don't know, the whole property that's now Kensett. So anyway, I do have an interest in it.
That's you're that Procaccini?
Yeah, I'm that Procaccini's wife. Yeah, it was real cool. So, you know, at one point, the town was gonna purchase my husband's family's property right off Lake Street. Of course, that didn't go through, you know, the finance committee, and so it went to a private developer, which ultimately was not for us, not for the town. But
Millions of dollars. I'm sure if you
sure. And then, so anyway, but yeah, they wanted to make it like sports, so it would have been nice in terms of usage. Okay, so, but by trade, I'm a marriage and family therapist.
I'm Mike Wheeler, District 2. This is my 8th year. I started on Public Works and then been on Planning and Zoning and Housing for the last 3 terms. And I also I'm the chair of the Board of Advisors for Darien TV 79, and we had a videographer problem tonight, so that's why we're recording the meeting on our new Zoom webcam. And we'll see how it works, but at least we'll have a copy of it.
So the good news with that, I'll just jump in and say, is that we can now do hybrid meetings. So if someone's not able to, you know, if you can't make a meeting, let me know if you can attend it by Zoom, because we may be able to accommodate that, which we weren't able to do last time. Thanks.
Although I'm also on the Rules Committee, and I think Seth is going to impose you have to be sick or out of town. It can't be, I'd rather have the meeting in hybrid. I'm in Florida, or
Well, then you're.
just don't want to come to the meeting. We have a
Leave your jammies on and a cocoa.
have a bar and have a higher
Get out
bar.
of bed.
Lori.
I'm Lori Edelman. This is my first committee meeting ever. I've been on the RTM for about a month now. So I think I've attended 1 meeting. I was interested, I wanted to learn. I've lived in Darien for, I want to go back. Kids are how old? My kids? Sorry, what? 25 years, almost 26. And raised 4 kids here. I wanted to be on this committee as one of my members. I've been on a wheelchair for over 30 years. In fact, that's how I met my husband. I was his realtor. And we were married for over 26 years. And I'm also a teacher, so I teach 5th grade in Winston. So long. I think this is my 3rd term this time around. I was on in the beginning of the millennium, also for 6 or something years. Did education then and TGSA for 1 semester, 1 term, and then I mean, partly just because it's fascinating to me. I've lived in town for years, so yeah, I'm seeing a change and I'm interested when change comes.
I'm Deirdre McGovern. I've lived in town 31 years. I'm also a real estate agent, which is why I am interested as well in what is happening to town. And I'm always curious about the big picture because I think we always have one.
You want to introduce yourself now, Steve?
Sure, I'm Stephen O'Kennedy,
Not on the RTM.
not on the RTM, but I was on the RTM. I sat on this committee for probably, I don't know, 6 years or something like that. Then I graduated up to, zoning board of appeals. And then I went to the P and Z commission. I've been in town 25 years. My wife's in Townie. Amy, I've known Amy for, know of Amy probably for 18 years, been friends with her for probably 15 years. She's also a great mom and a great scorekeeper of softball. If she has not told you that, she mentioned what she did, she didn't mention what the other job as a mom. But I've been in commercial real estate since, I was a sophomore in college. And I've done it my entire career, and I love this stuff. And one of the things that I like the most is, and don't ever take it the wrong way, is new development. I was part of the new development team way back when for downtown Brooklyn and for 32nd Street. And a lot of stuff in that plan, but thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, Steve's currently the chair of planning and zoning commission too, so he's going to be our presenter, so. Right, good.
I'm Cindy Torres. This is my first term on the RTM. I was voted in for a vacancy that was, there, and I'm originally from Stanford. Lived in town now 8 years. Grew up, very close to the border of Darien, so we used to go, to Walgreens and to Stop and Shop in their own heights, and so seeing that change and develop and how the town is growing is fascinating to me. I really enjoy home projects and real estate. I hope to invest in more real estate, in the coming years. I'm addicted to all of those apps, and so this committee was something that was really sparked my interest. And I'm really excited to learn from Amy and from all of you, and be able to contribute where I can.
I'm John Vesey. I lived in town about a little over 44 years. My wife was a teacher in town for 28 years. Raised 5 children. They all went through the school system, and currently have 4 grandchildren going through the Darien school system. I was a registrar of voters for 9.5 years, and I'm really interested in planning and zoning because one of my friends, Eric Yosten, who's on Steve's committee, always talks about it and always comes up with all these interesting things going on. So my interest kind of got into that too. So I was on TGSNA. That's too many letters, so.
It's the age. It's about the age.
This is a lot more interesting. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm really glad to have all of you guys here, and also the others that weren't able to join us. We'll make sure they introduce themselves at our next meeting. But I think that's a good sort of segue into, I just want to do a little bit of an overview of what this committee does, and then we'll turn it over to Steve to talk about what his commission does, because there is sometimes a little bit of confusion over that distinction. So Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee, the RTM, I'm reading from our Appendix B. We're responsible for operations of town planning, zoning, building inspections, and public housing programs, including the adoption and enforcement of laws, rules, and regulations affecting same and all matters of administration, personnel, and finance, which makes it sound like we actually do overlap with what the zoning commission, for example, does, and we do not. We are responsible for example, the budget of the planning and zoning department. So you will meet Jeremy Ginsburg at a later date to talk about that sort of thing. We are responsible when there are, every once in a while, there'll be something that comes down from the state that does require us to vote on a regulation. For example, when we had the opt-out from the accessory dwelling units regulations that by statute require the RTM's vote. So we voted on that. But then when regulations were put in place, that's a purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we could go to those meetings and participate, but as a committee and as an RTM had no oversight over that. We have oversight when the town wants to purchase property. That always comes before us. But I will, as a chair, one of the things that I try to do is send out to you all. I get copies of all of the Planning and Zoning Commission agendas, and so if I see something that's sort of broader scale interest, I will forward that to everyone so that you have an opportunity to attend if you'd like to. For example, I sent out next Tuesdays because they're talking about Pear Tree Beach, which I know is of interest to people, any of these bigger projects, but we do not have a responsibility to oversee everything that's happening in the Planning and Zoning Commission. And you'll get questions. I will tell you, I got a question just the other day, like, well, what's your committee doing about traffic? Nothing. We have no responsibility for traffic. So, but I do think it's important for us because we are going to get those questions to be informed about what's going on. So I asked Steve to come in today to give us a little bit of an overview of what's been going on in the Planning and Zoning Commission. Which, you know, a little different, a little more detail perhaps than we got in the state of the town, and it's an opportunity for us to ask questions as well. But thank you very much for the state of the town. And then the other thing that I asked him to talk to us a little bit about is plan of conservation development, which is something that will be worked on by the Planning and Zoning Commission over the next 2 years. It's something that's done every 10 years. And that document is super important because that is what sets the goals for the town for the next 10 years in the areas of conservation and development. And again, we don't, unlike New Canaan, you may have read in the newspapers that New Canaan's town council voted on the plan of conservation development. We don't do that in Darien. So again, we will not be voting as this group on the plan of conservation development, but again, because of our role, I think it's important that we know what's going on and we're involved. So I'll be letting everybody know when they're having meetings, and I'm hoping through the process, we might even be able to get the consultant in who's working with the Planning and Zoning Commission in to talk to us directly and give him, so we can give him some feedback. But that's an important document for us to be involved in as we go forward. So with that introduction, I guess I'll.
Fantastic, thank you. Let me just get out these things to be this slide of them. I'm a big paper person. I stick here electronics. If you get my office, if you get my office, there's paper on top of paper, please. What I did prepare some notes for you guys. Amy and I have talked the other day about some stuff. So it's kind of free form. I can either say Q&A or question and answer, and you give me topics I've known, because I could speak about the town planning and zoning that's going on for 2 hours. Then you guys can fall asleep. I mean, we left the meeting last night, you know, 2 minutes ago, and we talked for 45 minutes, and it was that. But I go on and on. The thing that I gave you, and I think maybe I'll start with the town plan and conservation development. The document I gave you is from 1951. It was done by a guy named Fred P. Clark and Associates. They're a big planner from Westchester County. The consultant that we hired this last month for this thing is the same exact company.
Okay,
Yeah.
not the same thing.
Not the same person. Fred Clark's got to be long dead. But the guy who owned it, they led a lot of these big land use consultant companies in Westchester and Fairfield and Connecticut and Fairfield. They most recently got gobbled up and joined together. There was a company, if you know the name, Malone and McBroom. They used to work with the school system and do projections of students and whatnot. They got by a company called SLR. Clark and Associates got bought by a company called Harrison Hanover, and the town uses a company called Time Model. The reason why I bring up this document is because if you look to the second page, it shows downtown Darien's parking plan. That's from 1951. If you look on the left, where it's black, it says New Street. That's under construction right now. So it took them, what's that, 76 years to build it. That block is corporate district. And the street, I'm 90% sure it's gonna be called Penny Lane after Mrs. Bestman. But they're finally putting that street in. And it takes a long time. But I didn't find this, it was given to me, but it is a little bit of a guide. It does take people long. What me personally, and we're gonna get to some pages after that. Because I've been in the real estate business so long, and I work for a company now called CBRE. I used to work for a company called Fish Life, basically do the same thing. I've been doing this stuff for a long time. And I go around to a lot of municipalities in our areas. Darien is a little bit unique in and of itself just for downtown because we have a main street that blasts through the middle of it. New King does not, Greenwich does not, Westport does not, Wilton doesn't really even have it downtown, and Norwalk really doesn't even have it downtown. This plan here, and one of my clients way back when was the town of Harrison. If you ever been to Harrison, they have no side streets, so what they want to do is create a loop. There's a loop down the middle, then there's two side roads that expand. That's what this does. One of my ideas is to finish the one on the other side, which is going to connect the Darien Sports Shop all the way to where the railroad tracks is, and we'll just be called Brooks Roads now. It's called Just Place. So that's something that's work in process. So you might see that in the next few years. It goes by little streets at a time, but that's why I kind of brought this up. The town of Peninsula Conservation is a state requirement. It's like a revaluation of town. It's an unfunded mandate by the state, and this is an April conversation. It's an April committee, so I don't know, that doesn't really matter, but it's something that the town has to do. It's a very expensive project. We pay an outside consultant to do it. Some other towns in the state do not. Our budget was $150,000 for this document. It's funded, which you guys voted on. I think you probably voted in chunks, right? It's like $75,000 in 1 year's budget, $75,000 the next.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's expensive, and we got 3 bidders came in. It was Hardesty and Hanover came in, Time Bond came in, and SLR came in, and they're the biggest ones. The guy that did the last one was a company called Planometrics, and you see him every now and again. He was kind of sort of a one-man shop, but he was very dedicated to the town. I did not vote for him to do it 12 years ago, but I was wrong. He did a fantastic job. And then from that, it went to another couple other documents that he helped out with. I wanted to get a proposal from him this year, but he's not taking on any more business. He doesn't want to do it again. So we got the 3 that we did. We are very, very happy with Marcy and Hanover because I think they're excited to do it. Just from the old document, after we did that, there was action points at the end. And this, if you look at some of the papers here, that attach your action points there. We redid the sign regulations and we redid some parking regulations, and we actually redid the entire zoning because the consultant said, hey, you guys got like 6 downtown districts. One was like the design office west overlay, one's a design office east overlay. Nobody knew what the difference was. And we collapsed a bunch of them and streamlined something. One thing that's a little bit of a side, and I apologize because sometimes I jump around a lot. When the state comes down, they have this thing called form-based zoning. In my practice of business, I look at zoning codes all over Westchester County, the Hudson Valley, and the state of Connecticut. The form-based zoning concept that is in Norwalk and in Bridgeport and some other towns of Westchester is the worst document I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how much they use them. Portchester has one.
What makes it awful?
The way you go, it doesn't give you an answer. Right, so if you're gonna build a building like a house, the setback on the left is 15 feet, the setback on the right is 15 feet, the front is 30, the rear is 40. It doesn't do that. It comes up with all kinds of, I have plenty of friends.
I'm gonna be able to reach out. I was like, I'm gonna throw a 10 for emphasis. That's what.
That's what the guy should do. This state, one of their ideas was to make form-based zoning of the entire state of Connecticut. And maybe somebody said, you know, you should do it, and they're gonna charge $250,000 per town and make a lot of money. I don't know. But our zoning code, when we redid it, it still says on the front page, like 1959. And all they do is just add in another paragraph, another section. I think Amy, as a land use attorney, probably did some changes to the zoning codes. We call it text change, but it's still the same document. They don't just blow it up and still do that. I've changed some things to make it more streamlined, but that's what we did. It's really a tool for town officials and applicants to use. The town plan of conservation development. There's things that have to be in there for a variety of reasons. I'll get into some of those things. But there are ideas in there, and I'll give you one quick example. And I got on the commission, I said 12 years ago, or maybe it might have been 14, I don't know. But in the prior one that was from 2006, no, from 1996, right? It did not say lights at high school. Right, so when the lights at the high school came up in the 2000s, when I first moved into town, it wasn't in the town plan, so it got mixed. So we did it in 2006, and that section says you can have lights at the high school that are 40-foot stanchions. And when it came up, it says, okay, what Amy alluded to earlier, and you just said, when you buy a piece of property, it comes to you guys. When you buy, sell, lease, change, anything to a piece of property, it's PZ&H's domain. Okay, so if you want to put lights at the high school, it's gotta get approved by PZ&H, it's gotta get approved by the town. If you want to build a new school, any of that stuff, it all falls under PZ&H. So inside the town plan conservation, it said we could do that. And that was put in, I think, in 2006, the lights came on in 2008. There's another quick example, well, I'll give you two quick ones. You know the bridge that's on Leroy Avenue that goes underneath the highway, and it's about this wide, and you can't fit my car and your car into there? That has, the widening of that bridge or that tunnel has to be in the town plans of conservation for 2 cycles. So when the state comes in and says, we want to fix the bridges between Bridgeport and Greenwich, if it's not inside your plan, you can't do it. So something like that is in the plan.
So like page 73, this is from 1950.
No, this is from 2006.
Oh, okay, so this,
He's got
It's
pages
now in
from
the
different
plan.
plans.
Right.
and now this is in the plan.
Correct.
Will that happen?
What does it say?
It's the one where Tokenique Road do another underpass.
That was that's what I'm going to right now. Old Kings Highway has north and south.
Right.
It used to be connected. When the highway came through and the railroad came through, they disconnected it. If you go there right now, remember it flooded a bunch of years ago? It's called a, not a culvert. Culvert. There's a culvert there. It's about 3 feet wide. That, in this plan, it says we should connect those 2 roads again. And we're never gonna do it, but the state is gonna pay, the state would have to pay for it. And if they want to do it for some crazy reason, it's gotta be inside the plan. So that's gonna be in the plan again.
But it's never gonna happen.
And the plan is every 10 years,
Yes.
so
And
20 years, so I have to be in there for 20
Yeah.
years.
Well, we all know though, if you wanna go from south to north, you either have to go down Tokenique and go Cliff or whatever, or you have to go, if you're south of the post road, so it's.
Right. right.
Right,
And why is it never gonna happen? It just can't be done.
The town doesn't pay for anything, and the best part about the planning and zoning commission is we have no budget and no money. We can't pay for anything. We come up with all these great ideas, and we say that you want to do it, and people go, what's there? And nothing happens until it comes from you guys. You guys are looking to spend the money. And it comes from the board of selectmen, because they're the ones that set the budget and the priorities. That's what it comes into. But if you get out to Stanford and you get out to Greenwich, on Greenwich Avenue, basic Greenwich Avenue, the one that's further south, they rebuilt that thing, I don't know, 8 years ago. In Stanford, they're doing all the ones in Stanford, in a pecking order of life, and I'm just telling you the way I think it is. I bet you Stanford and Greenwich get their tunnel on Leroy Avenue fixed before ours. Just because. The reason why Greenwich got theirs done and Stanford partially got theirs done, and Stanford still has 2 more to do. Is because in Greenwich, the parking lot is on the south side of the train station, and the train station is on the north side. They built a bridge and goes up and over.
Yep.
That's why they do it. Why we would do it for us, I mean, it's a little bit of a political thing too. I just don't understand it. Yeah, that's, you're gonna champion that, probably not, and I think you're gonna use political capital to do it, but it is what it is. The thing inside the plans are, town plan of conservation development today, and remember, the name of it's called the Plan of Conservation and Development. When it first started, way back when, it was a plan of conservation. There was no development to it. in some point in time before my lifetime, they added the word development on the end. So it's conservation and development. But the thing that it has in there about, expand the schools, acquire land for parklands. It has, enhance your coastal resources. Or there's different sections in all of it that say things like that. So when you go to expand a school or fix the school, it has to be in the town plan of conservation development. And what applicants do, being town officials or regular, resident or property owner or a land use attorney, they take out the plan of conservation development and they go, okay, on page 72, 72, paragraph 3, it says this is what you're supposed to do. And you go, okay, it complies. If it doesn't comply, you can't do it. So that's why it's in there. So it's a useful tool for other people to do. When David Genovese wanted to put in Penny Lane, they put in that new street. He said, "Oh, this was in the town plan in 1951. Can I do it?" And we were like, "It's a great idea." So that's why it's in there. It talks about upgrading infrastructure and bridges, and it doesn't really talk about funding, but that's why it's there. Inside the document, also there's a section that talks about diversifying our housing. Diversifying the housing component for Darien does not mean we're going to build multifamily or whatever it is. That's not what it means. It means we want, housing for 55 and over. We want housing for 62 and over. We want housing for, disabled or intellectually challenged people. We want townhouses. We want this. We want that. It's a diversity in housing. The one thing that I stick up all the time, and there's realtors in the room here. Our housing stock that's priced under 600 grand, I don't think it exists. Okay? Right, so the entry fee for my daughter, if she wants to buy a house, is what? 700 grand?
700, and that's even a condo. Yeah.
I mean, the only cheap condo in town was Middlesex Commons, right? Or
Yeah,
Village
and the
Farm.
new condos that are being built outside of Goodwives, that new development, they're gonna start 1.2 million for one bedroom.
But you think 7 Cedric is going to condo? Is that what you're talking about?
The one, the entrance to Goodwive Shopping Center, yeah.
It's a
condos.
rental. Oh, that's news to me, but.
Oh.
That's okay. We approve multifamily, how they sell it, it's up to them.
Yeah, it's all supposed to be one bedroom condos for starting at 1.2 million.
Okay. So when they talk about it, one of the zoning plans out there was to bulldoze all the small houses. Like on, I always call it Cherry Street, which is like up here, and some of those other houses, and my in-laws live over by West Avenue going towards Stanford. That's a lower income neighborhood. The lots are 1/5 acre lots. One of the ideas is to bulldoze those things and put up townhouses. Okay, put the townhouse in town, you just said it was $1 million. So you're taking out something that's 600 grand, and put it, you're going in the wrong direction. And I mean, I think about that, and I don't know if you know the name of Susan Marks.
Yeah.
I knew Susan Marks years ago, and she brought it up to me, and I said, "Oh, she's going to get crash and burn." She moved back, she goes, "No, she can't do it." I said, "No." She goes, "Oh, yeah. Kids don't have chemicals, stuff like that." So that's when you talk about diversity of housing, that's part of it. There's some things in here, talks about, it may talk about adjusting densities to facilitate development, which is, Avalon, for round figures, is 9 units per acre. And how many units are at Avalon? The state came down at one point in time when I had to write a letter, they wanted to do a blanket thing on the state, say make it 30 units an acre. Okay, that's a big difference, right? The land that's for sale, that's part of the Thorndale Circle, just for a benchmark. That, when they first put it out there, it was about 11 acres of land. Well, actually, it was 9 acres. I think it was 10 acres of land. Keep number simple. 30 times 10 is 300. Avalon's 189 units. We were against that. We didn't want to do it, but when you look at things like Darien Commons and David Genovese's and Palmer's, those are somewhere closer to 15, 16. Okay, that's something that's remotely palatable. but it's not. I think inside the old plan, we might have talked about adjusting with heights. Darien basically has a two-story height limit. At one point in time, they said if you want a third story, you have to give us, a public park. If you look at Penny Bassmeyer's thing, which is the Grove Street Plaza, those are 3 stories. Her public park is in the middle. That was, I think, the first one that happened. And the open space can be anywhere on the site. There's open space at Darien Commons, which is all the sections in the middle, and there's a dog park up in the top, you may or may not have seen. All the plazas, it's for the Walgreens, that's public park space, and there's spaces in the middle that's outside Sweetgreens, that's public space. So that's why they got their zoning density.
Cement space, though, there's a difference between grass space. Do you distinguish that, grass space and cement?
No, it's just open space. I mean, Penny Glassmeyer's, her center thing is all cement. I don't think there's a stitch of grass in it, except there's a tree. Yeah. But there's, you also have to deal with, that you can't asphalt the entire town. There's impervious surface rules. And at such items, a lot of those pavers or impervious. Where water can go through, you don't want to, when the last thing, I shop over at the Grade A on Hope Street. That entire parking lot is flat asphalt. It is the ugliest one in the world. That's what it does. It's not easy. One of the other things just to note is, in the same time, it might be in the new one, it might not. We always talk about parking at the train stations. There's plenty of parking at the Woodland Heights train station. I mean, people sometimes complain, but if you remember the one that's on the far side of the Heights, that's a state lot. So people from Buchanan are allowed to get parking passes there. Most of Darien are town-owned lots, but the lot that we talked about at one point in time was the Leroy West lot. A lot tonight did one of these deals in Mamaroneck. You could deck that thing and get it up and down, and the parking lot in a minute, but you have to get the town to approve, you have to get the state to approve it, it's got to be in the campaign, things like that. And then there's also other excess land pieces in town. I think that's all I really have in the town plan. Where you guys come in is any section that you want to see in there, you can talk about it. Any section you want to get involved in, we can talk about it. What I will definitely have the consultants come to your meeting versus you going to them. I'm gonna have them come to you. There's a section in there where they have to go to, and I didn't know we had it when I did the last time. There's a cemetery commission or something like that. The guy came in who's in charge of the cemetery commission, and he made a big speech, and he's got a section of something on conservation problem. Okay. And there's the coastal waters people come in, the parks people come in, so there's a section on all of those things, and it really just gives you bullet points of who's responsible. The old one and the new one is probably not gonna be the old one, but it has who's responsible, who's in charge, and how do you fix it, how do you enhance it. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to see our historic cemeteries just disappear, but you have to keep out, you have to watch out. So there are various sections in there.
On the properties or cemeteries that they have to preserve and.
And I mean, there's all the parts about water enhancement. I always called Kensett 2. They never really liked calling it
That was
Kensett
us.
2. Yeah, right,
My husband and I specifically that regard.
okay.
Yeah.
So there was a big thing about the water on that, and so the developer had to make sure the water didn't flood anybody else out, and there was, the road, if you ever go down there, the road goes like this. Right, the guy in the bottom of the road said, "You're gonna flood me out if you put townhouses up here." I said, "If you don't do anything, you get flooded out." The department will come.
That's also us.
Yeah. Then you complain about your own thing. But
Well, yeah, because we're at 26.
yeah,
That's we inherited the house from my father-in-law. It's the blue one, the 2-family, and it's at the bottom of the Wakemore, and then we just get like all the.
it's the place to go. And below sea level.
Yeah.
Like the bridges in town, if you want to fix the bridge that's on the post road, you can't raise the railroad tracks, and you can't even actually lower the ground because it's below sea level. So if you load it, it's going to be perfectly flooded.
We just have trucks in it all the time.
Is there trucks in it all the time, and see, that's the thing that you never know what's gonna happen. When we did it 10, 12 years ago, there was no such thing as like Google Maps and mapping and the trucks coming off the highway. The only reason why the trucks come off the highway now is because when they're on their Google Maps or their Waze, it says red, and they go off and they cut through town. They don't have that. It's really bad in New Jersey by the GW Bridge or the Comm Bridge. And somebody went against it. Zagrodsky, John Zagrodsky is gonna try to have the mapping companies not have that cut through there, but.
Try it. You should at least put a warning on there. There is.
Oh, there is,
Got
there's
it.
move signs.
No, yeah, on the street, I mean, on the ways.
Right, yeah.
The maps are out now.
I've never been able to speak to Mr. Google in my life. I respond.
Cars always going down my street. with the-
It's not fair. It's really, it's not. So that's what I had, that's what I really kind of sort of had on that. So if you flip to the old, we have not had our initial meeting yet with the consultant. But they have the town plans for the last couple of years. They've also done town plans around the state. One thing that did come up, and I forget which one it was, they were like really glad and happy, like, oh, we just did the town plan from Mamaroneck, New York. And I don't know if you've been to Mamaroneck, it's a freaking nightmare. It's terrible. I said, that's great, wonderful. If you redesign that, you know, I can have it. And he said, oh, we just did another town. Like, hey, you proud of that? No. We don't, we also, and I said it in my RTM speech, we're not trying to reinvent the watch. We all moved to Darien because it's a great town. You didn't come to Darien to blow it up and start over again. You don't do that, go down south. Hey, you know, this town's been in great hands for a long time. You know, I got involved in PZNH and in zoning on this building with a gentleman by the name of Jim Coyle, rest his soul. He was in the senior center and he used to sit over at the old middle, whatever that school's Hartree School was, where over on what's in this.
Edgerton.
Edgerton, right. My wife went to that school and sat on that toilet. They told Jean, you have to go sit on that toilet, and the toilet was like 2 feet off the ground. And she's like, see if you get a home around here. So
Oh,
that's,
that's going to senior center.
yeah.
That place was. That senior
And
center,
then-
so-
And then the other thing I got involved in, and this is where I kind of sort of met Amy tangentially, is 65 40th Street was purchased by the Stefanoni family, and they wanted to put like 32 condos there. And then I was a neighborhood guy, I think I was the president of the system at the time, we fought it, and you were recommended to be our lawyer to represent the neighborhood. But Mark Gregory did it, pro bono. So. being Irish. And that's something that's also, that's 15 years ago. It's still floating around.
Yeah.
The thing that's kind of weird, and I'm getting off on a tangent again, is most applications expire after 7 years. Every now and again, something blows up in the state or in the country, and you get extended, and you get extended. And that's also something like I think that one has no expiration. Most zoning resolutions are 2 years.
Yeah, you have to start with it.
It's that
Yeah, it was May 30.
8/32, right?
Yeah.
Is that why?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that also went to court, something that's, that approval never.
Because there was more late line. Is that how it got done?
Yeah, so that was a 830, we don't, the 830G is the state statute that basically allows developers to ignore zoning regulations if they have a certain amount of affordable as part of the plan. And so what towns try to do is you get what's called moratoriums, where if you show you have enough affordable housing, you get a moratorium, you can't file, and a developer can't file an 830G application.
Right.
Darien, had a moratorium for a while, we have not had a moratorium for 2
We have
years.
2.
Yeah, we have 2 of them, but we haven't had
Because
one.
they expire.
They expire
Right.
every 4 years. So we haven't had one for a while, but I'll say as a compliment to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that they've done a good job of working with the developers so that we haven't had any aggressive 830G applications, but we have had affordable housing built during that time period, so.
And one of the reasons one of the reasons why one of those applications was overturned, but it's still not getting too deep into the weeds, yeah, but they said that the way it gets stopped, the way an A through G options you could turn down is, like safety, health, and traffic, or, you know, the three.
Yeah.
It's something like that, right?
Yeah.
And they said, well, Darien, yes, this project is not safe and it has a bad traffic problem, but Darien's done so little for affordable housing in the last 20 years. The housing is more important than safety. And I was like, if you go now and look at it, and over the last 10 years, last 15 years, we've done more affordable housing than the entire state of Connecticut.
We have a really good reputation out of town for actually. building.
Yeah.
Do you think that we'll have a moratorium after these new developments, like the Palmer's one and,
We haven't really
District?
started counting yet because we knew we were nowhere close. The reason why we really got the moratoriums was, one was Avalon, because that was a big one.
right?
Two was, Allen O'Neill,
Mhm,
which is now for the Heights.
mhm.
And then the second moratorium was off the backs of the Royal. Because those were 100% housing projects.
Right,
In the last bunch of years, like, what's Ricardo's building, I think it's like 1988, where, it's across from Danny's bicycle shop. There's a building that if you have 4 over, you have to have one affordable unit. And he built 2 buildings that were 4, so there's one affordable. The third building, he built that there's one affordable unit, so you're getting 1 unit. It lands up being 20%, it's just because of math, it lands up being 20% affordable, because it's 5 units and 1 is affordable. But you get onesies and twosies here and there. That
there's
doesn't
two
do.
at Concept. isn't there? I think they
There's just
converted-
2 at Kensett,
Yeah.
but at Allen O'Neill, there's 105. You know, and at the Royal, which is Old Town Homes, there's 55. You can get onesies and twosies all over the place.
Yeah,
And it doesn't do a whole lot.
But it's good on housing first.
It's very good for housing, the Penny Glassfire, when she built Settlers Trail, she's got 2. The 2 Kent ones are in the front, and that old hardware store building.
Right.
Is it a rental or is it
Purchase.
So they are doing the, well, I know it's purchase, but sometimes they do a rental, they might purchase community.
Oh,
I think.
So I
there's-
know-
yeah, think there's
I know
two
that
car
2 of the
rentals.
houses that like my husband's like great uncles built. They converted them into. The developer purchased those properties that like are on White Street and
Right. The
Whitmore,
hardware store.
right, and then they made those, but I don't know if they're rentals or if they might be,
Yeah, they do that.
yeah.
What's the community in town? Is it Clock?
Talk about homes.
And those are purchased, but it's for affordable housing.
It's affordable purchase, and the model they used back then doesn't really work. The problem that, yeah, the problem with that now is that.
Do they turn over? 'Cause I don't really-
They do, but there's a list, oh, I'm sorry.
The reason why yes, that's a for sale affordable housing
Mhm.
project, and you have to qualify, you have to be under the limit. The problem is the way the condo docs were written, there's no reserve fund. Okay, so now you have people that are for affordable, people that qualify for affordable housing. And that's a whole separate issue because affordable housing is not supposed to be permanent. The idea of affordable housing as a global thing is you go in there, you get your feet on the ground, under you get a job and you make more money, you get out of it. If you own it, you don't have to do that, but. the
You want
problem
to
is
make
that-
those available to other people that use them
Correct.
basically.
You're supposed to cycle over,
Okay.
but in that project, it doesn't have a reserve fund, the roof is shot and the parking lot shot. There's no budget to do it, and you can't give the money back to, you can't have the people that own it, they can't do it.
Yeah, they just raised the common charge 32%.
And one of my old realtors, Joe Lombardo, lives in.
But you don't see them coming on the market because they keep a list at town
So
hall.
they don't even actually fit.
No.
Yeah,
There's a list of people waiting.
I was always kind of curious about that.
We did get more term points for that when we filed. A couple years ago. Any more questions on that? Because I have a whole nother backside to go on. And then you guys can cut me off. That's a great document too. Yes,
I don't know who wrote this.
P and Z does, the P and Z.
Oh, that's the quarterly report from Jeremy Ginsburg. So that'll be helpful to talk about some of what's going on right now. But just to finish up on the plan of conservation development, I will send everyone the current plan of conservation development, so you can, I probably should have done it before this meeting, sorry, I don't mind anything about it. So you can kind of see some of these points that Steve's talking about, and then you'll see the different sections, and, you know, as we said, there are just ways to get involved with giving information to the consultants so that we can help guide for the future. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so that was actually my question. I'm glad you point. So it does say, you know, it will basically be looking for public outreach, like how are they actually gonna be getting public outreach? Like, do we know, is it email, is it snail mail, is it like a survey online?
I'm, like I said from the beginning, I'm a paper guy. I could care less about, no offense, I think you like a survey monkey. I don't know how it works, they call it monkey for a reason. The questions are really open, and I don't know what the answer is, and how somebody looks at it and says, oh, that's based upon the survey monkey, they want us to do this. You know, you got me. The other thing that I don't understand is, you know, there is definitely a silent majority and a loud minority. So somebody who's a demographer or these people that do these things professionally, they have to be able to do that, because one of the things about, we're talking about Zoom meetings and hybrid meetings. When we were back in the COVID days and we were doing Zoom meetings only and around the state, when they were talking about the housing projects for the state level, there were people that were from New York that were saying what we should do in Connecticut. And it was like, you know, and you don't know where these people are from. If they're from Brooklyn or New York, or it's nice and down, you know, come sit in front of me. And I remember again, I'll get into the weeds, but when we did 7-Eleven, the entire town was basically against 7-Eleven. We got a letter from the guy that said it's a great idea, and the kid plays baseball and loves 7-Eleven after the game. And it was a lawyer. And I was like, fine. I think he worked at Shipman and Goodwin or one of those ones downtown. And I spoke to him. I said, what do you do? And he goes, no one. I go, okay. So why do you want to do? Because on the way to here, I go to Darien. So you should have one in Darien. I said, why don't you put one in London? I was okay. It's like, you don't have any standing, but you know, okay, what's a good idea? So that document is great. It's really, because of the way the world is today. There's planning zoning department puts metrics on themselves. Because the complaints that we get, oh, my application's been sitting on the planning zoning office for a month and a half now, we just haven't gotten called. That's what that kind of is. That's what it talks about.
That's the quarterly report. He's pointing to the quarterly report
Yeah.
that I sent around to everybody, that, so Jeremy prepares that every quarter.
And it's just how many applications they did and how many days it took and what their target was. So we don't really impose. The commission didn't really impose those targets on the department. They did it to themselves just for benchmarking. But I will tell you that our planning and zoning department is probably one of the best in the state. They call our guys for best practices all the time. Like how do you guys do it? How do you do it quick? I think it's a branch from me. Relative to the department, you know, in education, they call it the DIRG. What's it called? DIRG. They call it the DIRG, right? And that's our peer groups. In P and Z, we don't have a DIRG, and it's not really official, but it's been going on since Fred Conzi was on it, which is 12 years ago. The chair of Darien, New Canaan, Greenwich, Wilton, Westport, not sometimes Fairfield. We have like quarterly meetings about what they're seeing, about what we're seeing, and we are not all aligned at 100% at all. But there's a similar thread that goes through them, and you know, like Darien, we don't really have a lot of empty chairs in our school system. You know, now there are empty chairs. Wilton has got 1 million empty seats. So they changed their zoning code to be 5-story buildings with flat roofs. It's been very hard pressed in our town to get 3-story buildings, and everything has to be a gable roof. So that's the difference there. Westport has like a downtown issue. They also have an 830G issue. Greenwich is a lot bigger than ours. So they have their own issues, but there's a thread that's between, and a lot of those meetings are best practices on the website. But one of the examples, and I think it might be in this document. One of the things relative to this off-street parking count, I think I. No, I didn't. There's another one. I only made up 2 copies of these because these things are valid. But in November of 22, we did a walkability kind of study. And what it had to do is in Darien, we don't really have, it's walkable, but it's not walkable. Because like downtown,
It's not really.
it's not really walkable.
It's not.
In downtown, and we talked about this parking thing before. There's at a lot of times now, they put a thing called stamped asphalt, which is called the traffic calming issue that connects sidewalks on either side. And most part, they are red. If you ever go to Greenwich, and it's ironic, but in Greenwich Avenue and Elm Street is the center of Greenwich Avenue. Those 4 corners are connected by stamped asphalt.
Yeah.
And sometime back, they always used to be the person there, but now I think because of cost, the cops got.
I live in Greenwich, I love it.
And in
It's free for
Westport,
all now.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
free for all.
Yeah.
In Westport, ironically, the center of Westport, of Main Street, Westport Avenue is also Elm Street. Those 4 corners are connected. In Darien, we have it in one spot, which is in front of Uncle's Deli. That goes from Uncle's Deli to the Sugar Bowl, whatever we call it now. But that's hard bricks. Who paid for it? I don't know. And then when John Vaccaro and D20 redid the Playhouse, I had him put in hard concrete. I told him to do that. I told him to do stamped asphalt, but he didn't. He put in hard concrete and he put in a brick pathway. And if you ever go from the back where La Taqueria is, there's a beautiful path that goes all the way to the,
Yeah.
right? The idea is to continue that path all the way through the parking lot to the Darien Sports Shop and then bring it the other way. So what that document does and the other document does is, like I said earlier, we don't really have any money, but we can force people to do stuff. The idea of model block in town, that's a mandate on the Coast Road. There's another model block mandate in Heights where you have to connect the sidewalks. So with regards to the White House, which is called, I think it's called 2 Squad Lane in the back. If they ever want to build that, were you an applicant for that one? Yeah. If you ever, and it was after you, if you ever want to build that thing, you have to connect the sidewalks from little something white to that building to where Neat's gonna be, or the new is. And that's
Want to put in a staircase. up
staircase over the
to
top,
the train station.
right? So that's gonna be the walkability on the other side.
Also help because as someone who likes to run and go around like the sidewalks on your water. So bad.
Right.
It's just not, I mean, and it's beach area. You want to be able to like, it's dangerous.
See, we don't get in, you don't get into that. Yeah, we don't get into that battle.
That's
It's the
public
trees.
works.
They
Yeah,
don't,
On your water, it's the trees.
yeah.
the residents don't want the trees cut down.
But we did approve the sidewalk and the path because it's town-owned property going to Great Island. That's all private, so that was P and Z, the P and Z approval. But those are the things that we try to do, and the big one that we're working on now, and I would bring up in another piece in my little chat here is Heights Road. If you go from Chase Bank to where the Goddard School is, it's like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
But you're going up and down and through the sides and over the woods, that has to be connected. We were all over Federal when they did their piece. We got into a big tiff with, and then they passed it, the Palmer family, when they were doing theirs, that eventually sold it to the Colorado stores. So that sidewalk's gonna be connected, but there's a piece in the middle that's missing, and that the rear sticker is missing. So, and then also the other end where Subway is, that's missing. So if anybody wants to build on that street, you're gonna see a full sidewalk there. And if you go into what I also wanted to do, I was just talking about the stamped asphalt on the corner. You would put stamped asphalt from across Edgerton and then to go into the train station. If you see now, there's a crosswalk there, but it's a crosswalk from there. Because it's, yes, COVID changed a lot of people work from home, but still a lot of people take the train. You know, if they're living in those apartments, they want to be able to walk across the street. So, that's part of it. How much more time do you want to allow here? We don't. Because I still have a whole page. I told you 2 hours.
I think maybe if, you want to just talk about some of the, where we are with some of the, what were you going to talk about? What's your page there?
Big 3, parking lot, 40 Heights Road, Hartfordville, 3 parklands, Old Kings Highway, Thorndale Circle, BMW, things to watch.
Unless anybody has any specific questions about any of the big projects, but those are the big ones.
They want to start, you want to take
Well,
away?
BMW's that's done, right? They're doing that.
It's phase 2.
Um,
You're gonna expand?
No, they're not going to expand. With regards to BMW, and it's a great project. It's a great bit. It had a lot of pushback from the neighbors. One of the neighbors, you know, quote unquote, lawyered up, and put a big thing in it. So when neighbors do quote unquote lawyer up, and Amy knows this, 90% of the time they get 50% of what they want. Because it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You know, even with regards to, I was talking about it earlier, when, what's the first school that was built? Oxford, when Oxford was rebuilt, the P&Z Commission redesigned part of that. We redesigned part of homeschool, we redesigned part of Henley School, and I don't think we really redesigned much of Royal. But that's part of it. So we kind of sort of represent the neighborhoods. Nobody really came out of the woodwork on that one, but those things do happen. With regards to BMW, they're one of the largest employers in town. I think the only second largest employer in town is Ringsail. Yeah, you wouldn't guess that, but it's true.
So what's the?
What they did is, and part of this stuff comes down from franchisees, like someday you might see HL Chevrolet try to do something there. That's one of the oldest car dealerships in the region. And they're not supposed to look like the way they're all supposed to be the same. But with regards to that, what they did was they took their whole service department out and built a new separate building. And the service department that's in the back, with all those, they used to have 16 doors that looked down. That whole section got demoed.
You're talking about H&R?
No, I'm talking about
BMW.
You're done?
Sit down. Then,
So you can see,
condos.
So why would,
the 6 Commons,
oh, those, that's what complaint.
which is next to the lot, which is next to 35 Leroy and Whole Foods. So what they're doing there is phase 3, I'll call it, is they're gonna do when people that have, you know, expensive foreign cars, they do it, there's like a drive-through, you drive in, the door goes up and you're down, you get out, they give you the car, and you walk away. That's the piece of it. We've never had any problem, we've never had any complaints about that at all. One of the things you have to tell the neighbors, you have to tell everybody, and it's all, everyone has to be aware is, in the old building, there was 16 garage doors. And so here's 16 garage doors go up and down, that's noisy. The new building has 1, and maybe 2. So you go in and out, so instead of 16 doors up and down all day long, it's all enclosed. So that one's kind of done.
Is Thorndale Circle going through?
I'm sorry,
Is Thorndale Circle going through?
let me do that one last.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I will. The federal project, that one's basically done. All the apartments are leased. We talked about that. There's a couple of retail stores that are still empty. There are a couple of pop-up stores. One was Magnolia, which is my daughter's, one of my best friend's mom, was there during Christmas time. Equinox, and this came from us. It actually came from Amy Barsante. They're supposed to redo their roof. If you ever look at Equinox, there's all this spaghetti on the top of the roof, which all the HVAC equipment, and half it's out of use. That's all supposed to kind of come off and wrap that whole thing inside the facade, so you can't see the roof anymore. There also, when you come in, there's been an access issue when you go in there, because there's a 3-way thing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we screwed up, or maybe the traffic consultant screwed up. We really didn't catch that. But I've never heard about a legit accident there, but it is.
Close access.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not a close call.
yeah.
So they're supposed to close, there's an aisle that goes this way, there's an aisle in the middle, there's an aisle to the left, they're supposed to close the aisle in the middle. Do a crosswalk from Heights Road, I'll talk about in a second to connect the other one. They haven't done that yet, for that, you're gonna see that definitely done. 40 Heights Road is basically empty, there's just the two tents, which is,
That's that older building on the corner.
yeah, which is not, wasn't older, no, well, it's where the Citibank is.
Oh, okay.
Citibank.
Well, what's the one on Edgerton and Heights Road?
I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Okay.
Trust me, it's all on the list. But I can't stay for 5 hours. You guys are really bored. I'll never get money back. That 40 Hydro where my doctor was on the second floor, that's basically empty. They want to reskin that whole building, put in, if you look at them, they want to put like black windows on it, pop it out and dress it up so it matches the other one. And what we're gonna have them do is connect that building via sidewalk from that building to Gregory's property. And put in the asphalt across the way, because if you were living in that building, you're gonna go across the street, like right now, it's a traffic jam. Supposedly there's like an HVAC unit that's in the way. I'm like, that's great. Really? We spent $105 million, I think you can move an air conditioner with it, and then a lot of people have them in their house and they blow out if you can get a new one, remove it. But that one's pretty much done. What's the next one? The Commerce project, that one should open in the spring. They've already leased out a bunch of space inside there on the commercial side. Some people also have already rented apartments there. And picked up the
Goddard and the
units.
bagel place, what was the other one?
There's gonna be a liquor store that's gonna go in there.
Or no?
There's a,
Coffee shop?
no, they're actually moving from a different part of town. Yeah, Darren's has more liquor license, I think. than Capital.
And nail salons.
Yes, well, I'm gonna work on that.
Those have slowed down.
Yeah, those have slowed down. But that one's done. They have 2 spots. There's in the middle of, there's 3 openings. The middle opening is the largest. There's a fountain in the middle. There's 2 spots on either side for restaurants. They've had some people come and go for those restaurants. Those are still available as of today or as of yesterday. So that's something that's important. The liquor stores and the liquor store, I think, is in the back. There's another unit, and then the Goddard School. If you look inside the window on Goddard School, they're already building their classrooms. And that's something we talked about with the chairman of the Board of Education the other day. The law changed in the state of Connecticut where I think you have to have a threes program. I'm really not, I'm a little bullied in that stuff now, but I'm still kind of in the loop. So all the schools scrambled to have ELP, right? Goddard School, I think, has capacity of something like, 100 kids. So instead of having 4 new sections of little fidgets, they can go to Goddard School. We also approved that didn't come in the Montessori school over at 76 Tokenie Road. We approved them for the density that were licensed by the state, but the applicant wanted a higher density of kids, and the police department, the traffic study were like, wait a second, it's not gonna really work. So we said, open the school with the density that the state license you have, and then if you want to expand, come back to us. And they were like, no, we're out. It's a mathematical thing. If you can have 100 kids and the kids pay, pick a number, $20,000 a year, that's your gross revenue. If your rent is X, and the 100 goes down to 80, and your rent's the same, it doesn't, the math doesn't work. That's why stuff like that. But that's going really well. I've done a bunch of tours of that project, and it looks great. I also did a tour of BMW, and that one looks great. The next big one is Corbin Drive, phase 2, which he calls it phase 2 now. It used to be called phase 5, but now it's phase 2. The structure you see coming up now, that's the parking garage. There's below ground parking and there's above ground parking. Once the facade goes up, you'll never see that wall again. So people are getting nervous, saying, "What is this big thing?" in Maynard town? You're never going to see that again. In construction terms, it's called the Texas wrap. all the big developers do it, they put the parking garage in the middle and they wrap it. So if I'm on the third floor of my apartment, I come out and my car's on my level. It's not like you're going down the elevator with your groceries or whatnot. You could, it's on your level and you wrap it, you can never see it again. The first time when he first designed it, we have a very strict parking regulation in town, so he thought it was overparked. Federal also thinks they're overparked. Federal's got a bazillion parking spaces below ground that nobody's ever seen, but they're down there. Now, if you go to the parking lot pretty much is full for a lot of times. So all the residents that used to park in front of the front door now are parking downstairs where they're supposed to park.
They have any flooding issues.
I was gonna get to that too. Part of the thing that
I
we
live in
did.
Edgerton, and
Yeah.
all about water in that
Yeah,
area. It's,
no, that's important. We were talking earlier about sidewalks and things that the P and Z makes, developers do. And I didn't devise that. The federal plan was designed something like 15 or 20 years ago. It's called the North Heights Overlay. There's a gentleman named Mr. Golden, that owned it. He has since passed away, 12 years ago. Underneath the federal project are 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools that hold all the water that come from the Canaan all the way through Darien, and they go into that spot, into these things. These things are 12 feet tall, and so that costed town 0. Right? We said, you want to build this, you get 4 stories, you got to build this thing.
There's literally holding tanks under. Wow.
It holds like something like 1.2 gallons. And when I said to the consultant, I said, what does that mean? 1.2 million gallons. And he goes, Steve, it's 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's a lot of water. And the first time we got a really bad flood, everyone was freaking out if these things were gonna work. And I called the consultant and he went flying down there and they watched it through the rain the whole time. It works exactly as he's designed. It's not gonna stop everything, but you can move in the street, and that's part of what P and Z does, and that's part of the town planner conservation development does. If we find something, we can designate, you say, if you're gonna do this, you gotta do that. It's just part of doing business. So with regards to Corbin, that's probably not gonna be ready for occupancy until 2026. That's got a ways to go. The office building is gonna be in the back up against the highway. I think the office building is like 80,000 square feet and it's 5 stories. They already rented out 80% of the space to McKinsey and Ion and somebody else. There's a couple tenants that are available, and spaces that are in there and the things that have been built. So we watched that, and because we approved all these projects, by the definition, we're a champion for the project. You never want to approve something to have it out there. So we do bend over backwards and they come in and say, this is a problem, that's a problem. We found this out there in design box, they're building it. Can we talk about it? And we do that all the time. I think at Corbin, every single apartment complex, if you guys are realtors, anybody knows, every single apartment complex across the country now is a dog park. There's no spot for a dog park there, so eventually we got to find some kind of dog park for them, where it's going to be. For Corbin.
I suggested they own the property on the other side, where it's that little farm. I think that's where.
The farm's gone.
The farm's gone.
The
That's
farm's
the- that's the
gone.
park overflow.
That's where a water retention pond is. For the whole project. They had to do a water retention thing because nobody really knows that, but there's a river that runs underneath there. That's why it's called Brook Street. There's a brook. But he buried the brook. So I think that runs out there, but I think that is the spot where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Because
You put in
it's,
water retention under 1020 also.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all.
The perfect spot for the dog park.
Steve, how much I hear the research of Google working with the city of Boston has made dramatic changes using technology in terms of moving traffic by being able to better time the lights. How much is the hope that traffic flow is going to actually be improved, like the coming off exit 11 that Whole Foods had to build. That's terrific success. How much is technology based where that's going to improve the traffic flow? Because
We did that too. You know, going back a long time, and I don't know if everybody, you said you were not in town, but I know you've been in town longer than I have, that's for sure. But Avalon, when Avalon came in, they put in 2 traffic lights, right? David Genovese is putting a crosswalk in on the post road. When Federal came in, there's a big issue. If you haven't noticed it from where the gas stations are, where there's the Gulf on one side and Sun on the other side, there's like 6 traffic lights until you get to the far side, which is Maple Street, where that weird building is with like this hair coloring salon and something else in there. We had Federal time on those lights. So they paid for all those lights to be connected, so you can drive down there and get through. Because of technology, what you're saying, that's all done wireless. Back in the old days, they would have to cut in a trench and wire them all, but it's all done wireless, and that was on Federal's dime. And part of that is, that came out of the Parsing Harrow Fright Park traffic study. They said, oh, you know, there's a traffic problem here, because I live over there too, and people want bananas, and they're like, you know, you're gonna kill us. And they widened the road at the corner of Monroe Avenue and West. That got widened. I don't think they actually widened it enough, but that didn't cost us a dime. That was all the state money. But to get those eminent domains from certain people that have to do, but that light at that corner is connected all the way where it goes from Patron from the gas station to when you get to where the deli is and post 53, then the next light, then the next light. They're all connected. There's 2 schools of thought on that, and you know, I'm not an expert, so I don't say it, but my mother-in-law lived on Hollow Tree Ridge Road, right at West Avenue. And when the light was green and somebody was trying to get to the train station, they would gun it and try to go through the first one and the second one. That's where I have the problem with it, because I think people will go faster, not slower. But I remember when I used to live in the city, I used to love getting in the cab and what up Madison Avenue. Some guy took the right there.
Time and I figured, and then
It was
de Blasio lowered the speed on it, but if
Yeah.
you want 34, you up like Third Avenue,
Yeah.
you'd hit every green light from like
Yeah,
42nd Street to 96th Street.
that's where I lived. It
Yeah,
was dynamite.
then it
So.
slowed it to 25 then, so you have to go 24.
Yes, and then the lights
It's
is-
not working for me.
But we do watch that stuff. And it's also part of what we look holistically and you look nationally and what goes on. And somebody came in one time and said, oh, in California, they did it this way. You know, I don't know if Darren Connecticut wants to follow California does.
not this week.
Yeah. It's like, oh, in Bridgeport, they did it that way. Oh, okay, you know. I think they're watching us, we're not watching them. But all that stuff, and part of having a good consultant like a Harsing Hanover or an SLR or a Time Bond. And also, I mean, I do it for one, another part of it. I go all over the place and I've seen what works and seen what doesn't work. And I know how much expensive it costs. David Genovese, when he first designed this project, it was supposed to be 1,200 underground parking space. An underground parking space costs $75,000 a space. The state, you can build an $80 million garage on a big building. It was really much bigger than it's kind of sort of what I do for me. No, it's a little bit, I didn't know that. But those are them. The next one I want to talk about really quick is Thorndale Circle. Seabury is a huge company. Seabury owns Trammell Crow, which is the developer. So I am recused from that application. But what I alluded to earlier is when the first person that looked at that thing, because it was on the market for sale with no asking price and no design and whatnot, and because I'm in the business, I see this stuff all the time. Certain people from out of town said, oh, you know, 10 acres, great, if we do all over the country, 10 acres, people are 3 units. And it's like, you know, and it's gonna be, right now it's 150 plus 75. I know they got approvals from EPC, they got approvals, I think they got approvals from AOB. And I did not watch the last meeting with P&Z, the P&Z Commission. But and the feedback that I've gotten is for the most part, they've done everything they asked. The big issue was the traffic along, what's that, Hecker Avenue? There's a bunch of neighbors at Hecker Avenue, didn't want that exit. But the two most important people that are commercial is the police department and the library. The police department, which is the local traffic authority, it's locally legal, it's locally legal. It's one of them, if you go to LTA, they approved it.
Do you know if they're gonna make getting off of exit 11 going southbound? Currently, only the left lane is a left turn lane, and the right lane is, you can only go straight or right. Are they gonna make that a double left, because you get a backup of people, because first of all, the left lane signal is really short there.
And what's the business right in front of it? Is it in front of Whole Foods or?
Yeah, it's across the street from Whole Foods, and the Durian Sports Shop is
Okay.
diagonal. So what happens is you get off 11, and if there's multiple
Right.
people going left there, you get a backup all the way off the exit.
Yes.
So I know because
No, I come with you.
I went in the right lane into the double, and I got
See, what happens with stuff like that is we find out about it, we notify like the state people, because that's a state road. And then it goes up the chain, and then it gets in some black box.
Because I'm thinking if you have that there, you're gonna have more people making that left turn, and so in
Right.
terms of keeping traffic from backing up off the exit.
See, that's one of the big things that's on our list of issue is traffic. And when 7-Eleven came in, I've been in the business, in the real estate business for, like I said, 20 years. One of my clients is a big convenience store developer. I've never done a deal with a convenience store that had only one exit. And that one only had one exit. And I said to the consultant, I said, have you ever done one of these in your plan? And I would go, oh, we're going to do these across the country. And I said, you ever done one with only one in and out? And the guy looked at me and goes, I gotta go back to him. You know, and I was like, your whole traffic studies on one, there's never on one, and that's probably the reason why I got denied in 7-Eleven, just practically that. But where that comes in is the car wash that came in. We're gonna build a car wash down there, which Rio Bertucci's. They came in and they said, we want to traffic it.
They wanna put a car wash for Bertucci's.
They are pretty.
Right there on the street.
Yeah, I thought Splash would have
I
bought
was
it.
hoping
and
like
moved
for
over.
maybe an
they
Olive
didn't.
Garden.
But as part of the application, the
Okay.
developer comes in, the developer's a Darien-based guy, and he goes, you know, we want to put a traffic light here. And I said to the guy, I said, you know, that's $500,000. He goes, we're paying for it. I said, that's great. And I looked at him and said, you're not gonna get approved. And it's consultant goes, yeah, we're gonna get approved. I said, you're not gonna get approved, because there's a space in there. They filed to the state, they said, we'll pay for it, and it was too short, and they didn't get approved. So they had to redesign the whole thing, to get it to work. And the developer already bought the project, it wasn't a subject to. So he was already in the site for $5.6 million. And he had zero. But we really looked at that hard when the chicken store came in, which is called Bird Code. And the guy who I used to work with, the broker for you, and he started, he goes, oh, we're better than Chick-fil-A. And I said to him, I said, what did you just say? We're better than Chick-fil-A. And I said, have you ever gone to the Chick-fil-A store? And he goes, yeah, it's great. And I said, the traffic's after the zoo.
Yeah.
If you're better than Chick-fil-A, you're gonna have more traffic than them, because we're not better than Chick-fil-A.
And they're not.
You're not.
They have the hardly any
Yeah.
traffic.
No, which is sad, but you're rooting
Yeah.
for, but in terms of what we do, you know, I also personally, and I make sure the commission, but we cross the border. We're looking at Whole Foods. I mean, we're looking at Wegmans. We're looking at Costco. We're looking at Chick-fil-A. We look at all those things. Some of them, we get connected because it's within our borders.
Let's
and
go
we
look
can
at the
look
double train.
That's it's a gas station, and the tire changing place that's inside Costco is going into that building.
And then they're putting a liquor store where the tires are, right?
Yeah,
I
probably.
hope they have some plan to help with the traffic there, because this is
So
just.
bad.
Because Norwalk just goes fine, it's approved. And
Exactly.
It's
then we
it's
have to
literally
go
from
against it.
getting off the exit at 95. It literally the other day, I saw all the from Costco all the way to.
But
All the way back up.
But
Yeah,
because
I
they
agree.
have that
I
property where the DoubleTree is, you're gonna have direct access from Post Road into their lot.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have to go through,
Yeah,
you know, where
Yeah.
the Kinko's or whatever that was, to get to
West
Costco, it'll be
I
more.
think it's probably one of the worst.
So those are
Well,
the
but it's
things,
Yeah.
In the
Wegmans and
last
Target.
ever 5
Right.
years.
When they open Wegmans and
Oh,
Target,
yeah.
it's the same exit.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
it's going to be twice as bad.
so we have our consultants do it, and sometimes sometimes they overlap. And when we look at stuff like, we'll make the consultant look on the other side of the road. I mean, for example, they wanted to put a cannabis building, on the border of their area, which is 600 feet away. We got notified. And I think now it's in litigation, but that's something that if it was in Darien.
Is that
it would
like
be
your
legal.
Sloppy Joe's?
It is.
Oh, okay.
they're sort of just.
It is. And when the neighbors found out about it, they didn't list it, but we were kind of sort of in front of it. And stuff like that matters. The one that's now is behind, if you know where Middlesex Club is, behind Middlesex Club, there's an office park called the Omega Office Park. They just got that approved to put 600 apartments in.
Is that Stanford though, that?
Stanford.
Yeah, so but it butts up against.
Yeah, it's on the river.
But it's gonna
Right.
cause traffic.
Yeah. If you ever get on White Street, White Street's a nightmare as it is. And they get site plan approval, but no one has said, how tall the buildings are gonna be. So I can see those buildings in the back, they're all 1 story. If they get approvals for 5 stories, I'd be on the apartment building in my backyard.
Right,
by
wonder if they can
homeschool.
improve the roads through the Stanford office park there, you can cut through.
Is there a reason for all these rentals all of a sudden?
The state of Connecticut wants, there's a housing crisis around the state, and the state of Connecticut wants all the municipalities to do it.
And they're
That's
doing it
why-
all around the train station. And so we're getting told that's a great thing.
So the next piece of my little chat here is this time of year, and I'm gonna bring in Amy, is when all the bills in Hartford are all there. There's housing advocates that want to change everything, and I put out one piece of paper that one of the proposals a couple of years ago was just to wipe out single-family housing and just delete it and make everything multi-family housing. And then another one was or if you're within is it half mile or not?
Half mile.
So half mile of a train station, you could build 30 units an acre. And then there was also an eminent domain provision. And so it actually was kind of funny. I said to my son, I said, can you draw a half mile circles around this dot and tell me how many acres it is? And then multiply that and get 30. And he was okay, and he did it in 2 seconds, but I didn't know Pyrosphere, how to do it. So he did it. And it goes, it's like 12,000 apartments. So they had testimony, I said, if you do that, right, our North train station, you can build 12,000 units, and all those houses we talked about at the beginning, 600 grand, people would buy those things up, bulldoze them, put them together, and just let them do that. So this time of year, because I think the legislative session started last week, and I think it really gets kicked off tomorrow. These bills will come out, and one of the guys who was championing the bills used to live in Stuyvesant Town in New York City on 18th and Irving, or 18th and First. But now he's championing what you should do for zoning in Darien. I don't really get that, but I live in our town. And that's right. So if you see stuff like that, I'd like to kind of have it, not controlled, I'm not gonna say that, but people do throw in testimony to the state, anybody can put it in. But I'd like to be able to somebody vet it or see it or something like that, and people can say whatever they want to say, but.
We're speaking for the town.
Right, I mean, I'm speaking for the town, and I bounce it past the first selectman, I bounce it past, the planning zone commission, a lot of the stuff that the testimony we put is drafted by the planning zone department. But when they said 30 units an acre, I wrote a letter in 2 seconds and said, not in my town, and it got drafted,
There's a lot of testimony for that. There are a lot of people in town doing that.
it's important.
Yeah.
The last thing is 3 Parklands, that property was approved for, I think, 60 units or something like that. The property sold from one developer to another developer. The first developer passed away, the estate sold it. that will probably start this year. There was an application on Old Kings Highway to put a 55 and older small apartment building on Old Kings Highway where there's two houses. You have to know where the new Boy Scout house is. There's just two beat up houses that were falling down. So that is something to do there. That's also a project or an idea in the town for the conservation development it was thought about 12 years ago under Fred Conzi and Eric Voigt to make that street a residential street, because it's kind of a dead office street and we live down there. It's from the Ice House all the way to the back of Trader Joe's. At the end of there is that Fuji Island restaurant.
It's been,
Fuji Island.
Fuji's been in shambles for a while.
Yeah, Fuji Island has a target on its head. That's a ground lease. I talked to the guy 10 years ago. The guy who only passed away was in the state. I think was locked up for 7 years in the state. That should not be. I mean, Fuji Island closes every 6 months.
Yeah. I suppose probably.
Is it really?
Well, it's close last time I went by, which was a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
They're actually talking about, somebody was talking about sending out a little break.
yeah. That's something that's on my radar screen. We've talked about that. Things to watch. This is a property that's on the market for sale, which is 90, 100, and 188 Page Road.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think my
The land trust, I
husband-
heard the land trust was trying to do something with that to provide more green space.
They want to buy it, knock yourself out.
And maybe it won't flood now.
The PCNH might have to jump in on
What
it.
is it on for? What is it on?
They don't, in the commercial world, you don't put prices on anything.
Oh, okay.
You know, but it's anyone that ever asks me, it took Dave Jennings 15 years to get his approvals. Palmer's 10 years to get your approvals. 7-Eleven never got approvals. It took federal 15 years to get the approval. So if you want to come in and build something that's crazy, and you know, you're gonna sit around a long time. Because we don't approve anything like that that quickly, unless it's something that is consistent. And I mean, I've said it a couple of times before. I personally think, and I think that the disseminating town is that we have enough multifamily housing for now. We lost 2 office buildings in Corporate District. We're losing 5 more office buildings in Philadelphia Circle. The office market is getting better. I think people do want to work from home, but they don't really want to work because they want to closer to their home. McKinsey just took a big office chunk in town. A lot. I mean, the one of our clients at CV is AIG. The CEO lives in Westport.
I was
So
gonna say, west and east and
Yeah.
Reading, you can commute on a back road
Yeah.
and you get a lot more bang for your buck.
the highest priced or highest rent office building, I think, in the state of Connecticut is 55 Railroad Avenue, Greenwich. So if I'm sitting at my desk on the first floor, 55 Railroad, I can see the Greenwich train station. Or I can be on the phone at 11:55, so like the 12 o'clock train. That's kind of what this location is. The thing we love about office tenants is that they come here for breakfast, they come here for lunch, they stay for dinner, and then they go home. You know, and the parking lots are basically empty on weekends. So you might see something like that there. Next door to that is, on the other side, is the old Subway and dry cleaner site. That was contaminated. It's been cleaned up. Someone's gonna build something there. That did have a price
Intimidated
on it.
by.
Dry cleaner.
Right,
Oh,
I think I was told, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told that the total cost was $3 million. That's a lot of money. And I think the people that live in Florida or something like that. I wanted federal to buy it and flip it the other way. So you close off the front and you go out the back. Federal is not, to my knowledge, is not going to buy anything anymore. I also want to buy Bill's Oil Body, which is on Road Avenue. And connected with your dog park, but you can't really build anything on it. So they will buy it and buy it. I said, you want to park? Yeah. I'll pay $500,000 for a park.
That's why.
That's what you want.
And also.
Yeah.
Does Commerce own the computer?
No, the computer store, it's,
That's part of what's.
it's the-
Oh, that's part of
yeah,
that. You
it's
know,
like the
across
Christian-
streets.
yeah, it's just like the religious reading room or something like that. And then the building next door is the Epic Computer.
Yeah, right.
That's owned by the same guy. Their parking lot is that, what I call the black parking lot, that floods all the time.
Yeah.
That's part of it. If you look at the numbers, it's 90, 100, and 188.
Oh, okay.
This, I don't know what, this is kind of interesting. Somebody may know it. If you look at Heights Road, the numbers, it goes from 40, then it goes another number that goes back, and it goes 188, and then you circle it. I don't know.
Is the lot, the private lot that, the guy, people park for the train station, is that part of the
Yeah.
sale?
And that little building next to it, the guy
You know
keeps
how
his car
much
in there with
it,
his.
I live in Edmonton, I go back, how much it makes me crazy to see those potholes that fill up with water, it's like, just fill those.
It's not an easy site to develop.
Yeah.
And with the land trust came in and bought it and they made it into a green park.
Mhm.
I can sell out. If there's someone else that's gonna wanna buy it for, I can tell you that it's. The town redid all their assessments, that's assessed at something like 5.7 million bucks. You know, it's a lot of nickels, and it's like an acre road. That's that one.
Tiffany Road, there's two big offices.
What's on my list. Case. That's another one, that's Blight, 120 Tokenique Road. We got a developer called on that one, it's 6 acres, and the guy was, okay, it's 6 acres, I use 30 acres, try to put 180 apartments there, I said, no. I would probably get run out of town, by everyone who's in Tokenique, and they'd find me, and I'd be living in, Rhode Island. But that also has a wetlands problem. I actually brought in this. And this is where you guys kind of come in. This is that site, which is 120 Tokenique Road. That's why I love handouts. If anyone ever says, oh, I'd love to buy that thing, I think it'd be great, I could build something there. If you look at that, the red dot is 120 Tokenique Road. That is what you call that flood map. It is in the middle of the flood zone. So if anybody wants to build something there, they're gonna have fun, try to figure it out.
And what about the old church?
The old church sold, to another church. That's like in,
An active church.
yeah, it's like an evangelical type church where they have, I think, it's behind 9 Old Kings Highway.
Oh.
1,000 years ago, and maybe Mr. Beasley remember that. In a rock, right?
That would be great to have it there. That predates me, but I would love to have a
My
dinner
husband
theater.
talked about it.
Yeah.
I wanted Monica McNally to buy it when she was first selected, and give it to the Darren Arts Center. But instead she bought an island, so I got bounced. Mine was only $3 million, so it was a little more. But that one's on the market for sale. Zotos is a division of Kingsland.
Yeah.
Which has their headquarters in downtown Stanford, at the big green Kingsland site. Because I'm in the business, I know all this stuff that's it's public, but it's not kind of sort of public, but it was on the front page, but I don't know if anyone reads papers. Indeed is moving into Hinkle space.
I work at Indeed. So I
Okay.
forgot to say that before you said it, yeah.
I was in your building and I walked your entire building and I saw.
That's right
15
next to 120.
What day did you go in?
It was a Wednesday, it was either Wednesday or Friday.
Friday, because we only have to.
Cool.
They actually have.
Yeah.
in there now.
Yeah.
People are
I was
coming
gonna say,
in.
you mean the fourth floor?
Yeah.
We only,
But it's the
we
other
were
one
in
that's
office
the
5 days a week,
Yeah.
but now we only go in 2 days, so we're in a Tuesday, Wednesday, so you will definitely there on a Friday, if no one's there.
So
What
Hinkle's,
about this, what about the space that, where there's the bank that separates Federal and, Heights Crossing? Or Palmer.
that's what we just talked about, that's Heights Road, right, 80-90?
No, but not the two buildings there, it's
The
the,
bank.
Jamie wanted to, so that the two developments would merge together. So it's the.
They
going-
can't merge together though, because there's also the Palmer's supermarket is a
It's
different
on the
building.
But right, it's the back of the, it's from the back of Palmer's over
I
to
can't
Federal.
tell where you are, you're on.
It's the edge, it's at Edgerton Road, is that the, is that?
It's Edge Road splits it, right, and then there's the two office buildings in front, one's the Epic Computer, one's. the
But that's on Heights Road, this is the one on Edgerton.
Oh,
talking about
People's,
That's-
M&T or whatever.
That's
the-
Palmer's parking lot. Palmer's owns that
Oh, they own that.
MFP. That's their employee parking lot.
Well,
Um,
people that own that land.
No, the other people do. The stuff that's underneath Palmer's is owned by the Brunos and the big family. That's Allen Heights part of that. They own the land underneath the Palmers, and I think the Palmers family owns that part of my land too. And this is again, people think that we don't look at it holistically. What I really want to do is connect Federal with the front door of Palmer. Okay, there's no sidewalk to go there, right? So you come out of now there's Bear Burger there.
Yeah.
And they put in one of those wheelchair handicap spots. And for the Bear Burger, and it goes to nothing. Because there's nothing on the other side.
Right.
Behind, if you go to the post office, you go to the post office, it's in underneath the Farmers, and you look to the right, you're gonna see a plywood sheet. That's covering an alley that goes behind that building, that comes out on the other side that takes you. So,
That was a real retaining wall.
right, yeah.
you know?
It's a retaining wall that ends, and there's a sheet of plywood. That lands up being an unsafe alley, where people can get trapped. So that's why they closed it off on both sides. But if 80-90 Heights Road is gonna get redeveloped and that whole thing comes down, I can bet you dollars to donuts, you're gonna see a sidewalk that goes from the post office directly to Beverly. And it might be stamped asphalt, it might be concrete pavers, it's gonna be something, because if you're inside, you're living inside Federal, you want to be able to get the Palmers, and right now you have to go around and around and around. And around. So we look at stuff like that. What else is there?
You were sort of saying about the Hinkle,
Well, Henkel is next to 120.
okay.
So 120 is here, which is empty, which is the Blight project, and that's 6 acres. Hinkler's Autos is to the left. My daughter actually interned inside that building, a couple summers ago, and I respect everybody, but my daughter is 20 years old. She didn't really have a great internship because the average age of people that lived there were like 50-year-old moms. And so after work, they were like, we're all going home, and there's some internship, she might do something fun. And it really didn't work. There's some special stuff in the basement of that building, where they do hair products. It's a hair product testing thing. That's what Zotos does. But me personally, I don't think that's gonna be there forever. That is inside the design office district overlay zone, which you can convert it to multifamily. But I can guarantee you, Dallas Donuts, you're not gonna see, 180 units.
What about the church on Middlesex Road? All the way,
That's the old St. Luke's.
That's on Mansfield Road.
oh, sorry,
Mansfield Road. I did get a phone call on that at one point in time. I think it's a lot of acreage, there's a lot of wetlands in there. It could get subdivided into single family lots. When phone calls like that come in, the first place they go to is, if it comes to me first, then it goes to P&Z. And then the P&Z, Jeremy and the staff will talk to them and say, well, you need 3 curb cuts, you need this much frontage, this and this. And I think there's wetlands back in there. People have looked at it. At one point in time, I was told that there was another church I was looking at it, and one time I was told the synagogue was looking at it. Let's see.
St. Luke's,
No, St. Paul, it's called St. Paul.
Well, St. Paul's, sorry, but the
They
diocese,
don't-
the
they
diocese
separ-
owns it now.
they separated from the diocese.
They separated, and that was why the parishioners are no longer there, whereas the diocese is still own it.
Yeah, churches, I mean, I don't, that's Presbyterian, isn't it? It's
No,
not,
it's
okay, so it's quite a comparison. The Catholic, my client in the city used to be the Catholic Church. And it's really weird, there's 2 entities, the diocese owns one, and then the parish owns the other. And they usually their goals are not aligned.
I know too much about this.
Yeah.
Every single denomination is different about who owns what and what you're allowed to do on each.
Yeah.
I've been working on Lutheran church, I've been in Canaan, and they've got a whole different setup. It's fascinating. But anyway,
When I was in
that
the,
one's a diocese, I know.
yeah, I went to the,
for one to another congregation, St. Paul's. It was like rented by another, for way back. And they went to it out for a little bit.
churches are odd. I mean, in the Catholic Church, you could sell a Catholic church because they're one of my clients to a Jewish church, but you cannot sell it to a Protestant church. Don't ask me why. Yes, it is.
That's fascinating information.
It's like, okay, I was about to tell a guy that I'm trying to get me into heaven, so you know, it's. The other one that I keep my eye on to, and the last one I'll mention was two other ones. One is 76 Tokyo Road. That thing's been vacant for years. That's next to the deli. There's been ideas on that thing. The guy who built it, I think paid $6 million. That's where the school's gonna have no parking. I told him to buy the building next door, which is that old Italian deli. And the Italian deli guy would sell and he went to more. And then the last one to me that's kind of important. I don't know if anyone's a member of the junior league up there in Belleville. They have a white building that's on a big piece of land that's directly across the street from like 777 Post Road. It's been on the market for sale for years. It's a big piece of property. We had a bunch of phone calls on it. The junior league has not been there in years. It's a medical office building. If you go down Sedgwick,
Yeah.
or is it Sedgwick? Yeah, Sedgwick, and if you went dead straight and go to the shopping center, if you're going into the shopping center, make a left. It's the first building on the right after, like, a little bit down. It's probably after Kelly Real Estate, which is now.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big piece of land.
Yes, if you land like this very squat building that's set back, it is big, big property.
Yeah, and people, because it's Darien, oh, it's worth funding out. You know, what can you build it? You can build a doorbell now. You know, you can't build anything, on it, but it's stuff that you want. You know, is it, yeah, I think that's, I think I got through everything. All right, so cannabis shop, we might change, that's relative to what you were talking about earlier. And I mentioned it in the town speech, is the fine system. I thought about it a while ago, because, and it was actually Amy, part of it, Amy represented one guy, and the guy next door was supposed to build 12 feet from the property line. And for somehow or other, they said, oh, my backhoe guy made a mistake. And he went 2 feet from the property lines. If the guy went, you go there every day, watch the guy, he was over by 10 feet. You got it. You know, there's no fining system for that. So he just asked for, forgiveness. And I forget what we did. I think the applicant would be.
Did a whole bunch of stuff to reinforce it, but it was too late. I mean,
Yeah.
the ground was gone.
It was too late. So there's no fining system. So the state of Connecticut never allowed the fining system up until I think last couple of years. I'm not in the market of fining people.
Yeah.
We need something. We need something. So that might come through to you guys. We passed this year, there's no cannabis shops allowed in Darien at all. We might look at it again, for no vape shops in town. It's not in zone for now. I don't think there's, we don't think there must tattoo parlors. That's a different one, but then there's another, I don't think there's anything about adult books. No, I think it's, you're talking about the one that's current? There's a current one that's on the application, that's a body person. But the applicants who came up, if you watch him on TV, he was covered in tattoos.
So is that why the cannabis place that wanted to go on Smoky Joe's is litigating?
They're
Or
They
they
got-
can't speak to that. Oh, they were approved?
no, yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
they're approved by it, but whoever, I think one of the neighbors is appealing the decision. They're saying there's too many of them.
the neighbors with the appealing decision is the guy that founded the Darien Foundation. Remember Washington next door?
Oh, Chilton, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the guys were, because.
I was surprised at that. Yeah, so he's got the big office for it, I think.
Yeah.
And Giovanni.
I will say it's pretty sad though, nobody's going to supposed to do this anymore, so I think everybody thinks it's gonna close any day now, so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people want to buy it. There's I know 3 other guys that called saying, can I buy it? It's not Darien, I'm not the broker. You really want, but thank you for inviting me. I hope I didn't bore you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I can keep going on.
I think we're good for now.
I knew that was coming. You're gonna.
Make a motion to adjourn?
One second.
All right.
Thank you.